Yo, what is up, people? How are we doing? I'm going to put my head on my penis so you cannot see it. Doesn't need to be that big though, does it? But hey, you have all been waiting for a little bit of a reflection on my bodybuilding experience, the first show I've ever done. And after 2 weeks now, 2 weeks? No, 1 week. 1 week and a bit, I can confidently say it won't be my last. I want to do another one. Let's just kind of put it out there. I am a competitive person. I wanted to win. Didn't quite get there. You know, no discredit to the guy who won. He was great. His posing was fantastic. And he, if I nailed those things, I'm sure I could have maybe put on a better performance. But I got a bug. I loved the process. I thought it was a great challenge, way out of my comfort zone, and I got to look good for a few days with a nice tan. So without going to Asia this time round. But hey ho, let's jump into it. Three absolutely sexual males on the front cover there. Let's move into the first of the slides. So, the contents. We are going to look at why I did it initially. All right, this is super important because if you ever want to do something, you have to have a reason for doing it. That's going to be difficult. Training prep. What did training look like in that 6 weeks? What did nutrition look like in that 6 weeks? And what did the actual day event, look like as well? And finally, what did I learn? What did I reflect upon? What did I take away from my overall experience? So let's get into it. Why I did it, because this is a key to the effort that I put in, and it's what kept me on the straight and narrow. And for anyone who wants to do a venture like this, which is going to be tough, it's going to be difficult. If you want to give your best, if you want to come up and show your best self, you have to have a driving force. And that's something I try and get out of my clients all the fucking time. At the end of the day, most of the time we get into fitness, we want to look good, we want to feel sexy, we want to look good naked. That is always a reason. Like whoever says it's not is lying. There might be other reasons attached, of course, but we want to feel like the shit. We want to walk around with our tops off, and not that people are looking at us in a way that, I'm the big I am, blah, 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 blah. But we almost want people to appreciate us and our hard work done. I think everyone in shape can relate to that. Some dickheads, I promise that's not me, like to show off a bit, like to be a little bit like, ooh, look at me, I am the King Kong motherfucker, boom. No, you're not. Because there's other people who are bigger than you, there's other people who are more ripped than you, and you're a knob. But most of us can still be in cracking shape and be a nice person. And that is the overall goal of people. All right. But the main reason I did it first and foremost was the challenge. It is something that scares the shit out of me. I'm only joking. I am such a, so we say, humble person. I'm not one that really takes compliments that well. Not in a negative way. I just find it difficult and sort of embarrassing a little bit when someone compliments me. Obviously, it's really, really nice, and it does warm my heart, especially if, I have been given some, in recent years, really nice compliments and stuff that I hadn't even realised about myself, which almost does bring a bit of a tear to your eye. And yeah, you can call me gay and a wet wipe now, but sometimes it does. But this was something that really, really scared the shit out of me. Getting up on stage in nothing but these fucking little, hooker pants, look like I'm ready for some sort of sex show or something, and getting up in front of on a stage where I'm not there with anyone. I didn't bring any friends, I didn't bring any family. Thankfully, my videographer for the day, Rita, and her boyfriend were quite supportive in the crowd, so I do appreciate them cheering me on whilst I was up there. But other than that, I just kind of rocked up on the day with, as you can see, some guys in fucking amazing shape and give it my best. Although, looking at this picture now, I know I could have pushed a little bit harder on the cut, and certainly my legs didn't come through as much as I would have liked to. But hey ho, the challenge was the key to me doing this, because I like to really challenge myself and accomplish things that I've maybe make me feel like they are kind of difficult. So challenge is key to anyone who wants to grow. The next one is to feel my client problems. Now, I'm that kid. I've always been in shape. I've always been into sports. I've always had a fucking six pack. So I can't turn around to you and say, I know what it's like to be fat. I just can't, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pussyfoot it. But what I can do now is I can relate, and not that I couldn't before, but even more so now, I can relate to the extremities of going on a cut. I can relate to your challenges of being in a deficit. I can relate to your challenges of saying no to socials, to foods, to things that aren't going to help us get to our fitness goals. And I can do it from a place of extremities, because I don't necessarily have to do this. I'm already in shape. I'm already looking good. I'm already confident. I had to go the extra mile in my own head to cut down to 50 grams of carbs, to say no to going seeing friends and having a beer at the weekend. And believe me, for a northern lad, you know me by now, that's fucking hard to say no to a beer. All right? So I also know what it's like to feel hungry. Hungry. Not cravings, fucking hungry. To the point where I am literally feeling faint for a full day. Because, yes, I could have managed my activity better and maybe reduced the CrossFit a little bit. But I ain't built that way. I want to have fun. And it's fucking hard. When you're hungry and you're dizzy because you're hungry, now I can call you a pussy-ass bitch if you're giving into cravings. All right? The other things are, mood fluctuations. Yes, there was times I felt hangry. I felt a little bit low. I was a little bit short. And people noticed. Of course they did. People at my gym said straight away they thought there was something wrong. But they will tell you, and I promise they will tell you, I did not take my mood out on them. Because I actively knew when I was feeling that way, I had to make an extra effort not to take it out on anyone else. Because I know what the issue was. It's not their fault. And it's something that's going on in my body at the moment. I have to control it. So I know things like that as well. When other client problems that they may face is preparation, making sure that I am prepared with meals, and not falling victim to last minute sort of microwave takeaways, whatever. Being getting to sleep on time and being in a routine of sleep. So making sure that, because I knew I was going to get tired later on in the day, like that was the typical pattern. I knew I had to still get up early, get the majority of my work done, so that didn't suffer from what I was doing here. Okay, moving on to the next one, business exposure. I'm not going to lie, the big reason I did this was for a little bit of promoting of my own brand, of my own business. Let's face it, even though this isn't my number one sport, this isn't what I'm all about when it comes to coaching, it's going to attract eyes, okay? It's an aesthetic sort of view. It's going to stop people scrolling through Instagram. It's going to be that initial hook for people. But also, it shows anyone who doesn't know me, right, this guy put himself on a fucking bodybuilding stage. He's in great shape. He's got discipline and he's a coach. Oh, wow, his next post, he's doing fucking handstand push-ups. He's a CrossFitter. He's got variety. I wanted to have that. I want to have that persona. I want to show, because that's who I am. That's what I am. I'm someone who likes to play around with different sports, get involved, get a feel for different things. And it's not just sports, cultures, countries, religions. I like to be in and amongst everything, because the more that I can experience, the better my sort of self-made encyclopedia becomes. And that's what makes me thrive. So yeah, it was definitely a big reason for this, and probably a big reason I'll do another one, is for that business exposure, get eyes on my brand, see that I fucking walk the walk, and hey ho, I ain't gonna bullshit around that. And then finally, it is closure for eating disorders. So I bet this is the one, bit of left field. Eating disorders, what? Fucking eating my keyboard, I'm not hungry. No. All right. Going back to COVID times, I'll put my hands up. I had eating disorders to the point where it, took its toll physiologically on me. My resting heart rate, my body temperature, my body fat were all super, super low. I would have mad binging episodes. If anyone watches that Beard Meets Food on YouTube, I admit I do. Fucking great guy. If Beard Meets Food, if you ever see my YouTube video, I'd love to do an eating challenge with you, sir. But that guy puts away some good food. And I think during these binge episodes, maybe not now, it'd probably be a bit difficult now. During those binge episodes, that would be like my first helping. And then I'd be having another one. I was fucking horrendous. I could eat it's hard to, I never sat there and totaled up, but mentally I totaled up what I would eat sometimes, and I was definitely hitting 10,000 calories in those sittings sometimes. Maybe not like a half-hour sitting, but over the course of maybe 2.5 hours, yeah, easy peasy. That also connected with bulimia, so I'd make myself throw up if I ate too much, and that became a little too common as well. And this, for me, because it took a lot of hard work to get over that shit, and a big reason I did is CrossFit performance. Feeling how, rather than going off how I look or how I thought I might look after a heavy meal, going off how I feel and perform. And this was almost like revisiting those bad relationships I had with food, and could I cope with that? Could I do the dance in terms of a really extreme cut? And you know what? On the most part, yes. There were a few little naggly things in my head at the time, little slips here and there. But for me to do it, come out of it, and get straight back into CrossFit and performance, it's been fucking wonderful. And for me, is a really, really big top tick in my sort of growth. So yeah, they're the main reasons. And for me, number 4 is probably the most important, followed by number 3 and 2. With number 1, I think they're all important in their own way, but yeah, number 1's just about me personally. Okay. Moving on to the next one. What a shot that is. That's probably one of my favourite photos from the bodybuilding show. Just looking at that, it definitely shows off my leanness in the waist and the obliques coming through there. But yeah, anyway, stop admiring myself because that's rather gay. Focus on weaknesses. So training prep was all about kind of exposing where I was maybe the weakest in my physique and basically bringing that out. Of course, I worked with a bodybuilding coach, so I'm only sort of anecdotally quoting and assuming what he was doing in this phase. But I had 2 push sessions, mainly around the upper pecs, and there was probably more glute and hamstring exercises than quads because, I mean, anyone who fucking knows me knows that my quads are like King Quadzilla, and maybe on the glutes and hamstring, not that they're small by any means, but in comparison, maybe not to scale. So that was definitely a focus. On the weeks out, it was a good change up in terms of training. There was more exercises, less sets, more intense sets, lower rep sets at the start and towards the end. Then we got into peak week, and it was about basically, higher reps, depleting the muscles, flushing out all that glycogen, and then, using pump sessions towards the end of, towards the show to refill those muscles and get them popping on show day. And nutrition was... a training prep. The next one was, like I say, less and more intense sets. So, sets of 5 to 8 reps and just really fucking sending it in those 1 or 2 sets. And then we're into strength, maintain, endurance, shoulders. So this is what I experienced, and this was pretty cool because I was expecting to become as weak as a kitten. I was expecting to be like prepubescent Tom, not lifting more than 70 kg on the bar, and feeling like a bit of a wet wipe. But I maintained my strength, which was great. I maintained my CrossFit performance on the whole, which is great. What I will say is muscular endurance fell. So where I would be able to hit 10 reps at a certain weight, I was getting to maybe 8. And that's really the only difference I felt in training itself. Recovery as well, I'd probably say was a little bit inhibited just by the lack of protein. Oh, well, not necessarily lack of protein, but lack of calories. So, like I say, for a normal person, you probably wouldn't have noticed it with what I had been experiencing, because I was training every day, going to CrossFit every day. Of course, I was going to notice a bit of a change in my recovery for the lesser. And finally, like I say, I combined a lot of my training with CrossFit because I love it. I needed it for my mental release, but I also thought this would be, if I'm doing more exercises, not overexerting myself, that's my cardio at the end of the day. That's me burning the calories that I need to burn to strip down. So whether I do as intense CrossFit towards the end of the prep next time, probably not. I think that's where I maybe let myself down a little bit and maybe came in a little bit flat on the day. But I'm really glad I had it in because mentally it was a massive, massive help. And I think maybe without CrossFit, I would have been much more prone to maybe slipping up on a diet or other areas. Here we go. Believe it or not, this guy on the right was actually, that was his colour. I don't actually know if he put tan on. He was from Bahrain. But it was a question I had because, with the tan on, I'm the same colour as him. But no, he was actually brown. This is the guy who won, though. I think for to be fair to him, his legs and his posing probably brought it out. But yeah, anyway, I digress. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about nutrition prep. So we started at 2,500 calories, which, before that I was on around 3,500. So initially there was a big drop, which I knew was going to be the case. Didn't really have an issue, but this was chipped away week upon week. We were chipped away until we hit peak week where, the final normal week I think was on 18 to 1,900 calories. And then we hit the carb depletion stage. This shit was pretty hard. This is where I had those dizzy episodes, like I said. So we started at 50 grams of carbs, and this is hard for me because I eat a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables. So I had to be really picky and choosy with actually what vegetables I was eating, what fruit I was eating. So I was, skipping out on the exotic fruits like bananas, pineapples, mangoes, high in sugar, swapping those out for berries. And then when it came to vegetables, again, swapping out the starchy vegetables like carrots, parsnips, butternut squash, and replacing those with green and leafy vegetables, so courgettes, kale, spinach, that kind of thing. All right, so even my diet hacks were inhibited a little bit because I couldn't bulk out the meals as I usually would with the usual foods. But it was only a few days. And after carb depletion, what goes down? Well, this isn't the same, but what goes down comes back up. So we had 3 days of 400 grams of carbs. Now, I didn't realize how much carbs this actually was. I think I have a bit of a bigger split in terms of favor of fat, which is why I've not really been having 400 grams of carbs per day on the usual. So this was a challenge in itself, and so much so that I was not feeling like the typical bodybuilder after my show had finished, waiting for that dozen tray of Krispy Kremes to go smash into one big patty. It wasn't happening. I didn't want any food. I was done. I'd ate so many oats, so much pasta, so much rice in those 3 days that I felt, even though I didn't look it, I felt like I was going to pop. So the first thing that I wanted to do was have a nice crisp beer watching the Man United and Man City derby. Oh, how they ruined my day that day. Going second in my own comp and then United getting battered by shitty City wasn't good. But I got a little bit tipsy off a couple of strong beers, so that was my little treat to myself. And then finally, on the day manipulation, this was really, really cool. I really enjoyed this part. I really enjoyed the science behind what we're doing because this, as I say, this was my first rodeo on the bodybuilding stage. So even though I've been in training for fucking years, as a coach, I'm pretty well versed and know my shit. But I've never done the bodybuilding specificities. So on the day manipulation, Reese, being my coach, only had videos of me to send him. And he basically gave me the food on the day based on how I look. So, it was a big bowl of oats with water and peanut butter in the morning, even though I swapped the peanut butter for pistachio because I ran out. Damn it! That was annoying. And then just before, maybe 45 minutes before I stepped on stage, it was 2 tablespoons of honey and some pink salt, which was interesting. But I think everyone had their own sort of techniques. I saw people with cream of rice. I saw people with Rice Krispie squares. I think the common denominator was carb up and pop those muscles is what I gathered. Now on the day, this was interesting. I had to get there super, super early. Luckily, it was only down the road in a town called Warrington. So about 40 minutes on the motorway. But I had to go there and get there for 8:30 or 8 a.m. to get my tan. I wasn't on stage until 1. So it's a fucking long morning, especially if I'm on my own. So what I did is I just took my laptop and worked. But literally, let's not talk about that. I got there and got my second layer of tan on because I had previously got the first layer the night before. The emotions, this is a strange one. I think maybe because I didn't sleep very well and waking up super early, I think maybe that masked any anxieties I had. But at the same time, I just didn't feel that anxious. Maybe right up until we were about to step up on stage. Then the butterflies maybe came in a little bit. But, I was pretty chill the whole time, which I was really, really surprised about. So, yeah, think of that as you may. Maybe I'll take it more seriously next time and I might win. The schedule. So like I say, got there at 8:30 a.m. Tan on. Then it was sit there for ages. Every hour I'd send photos to my coach. Then finally at 12:30 we were called backstage to just basically get ready. Funny little story though. As I was coming down the stairs and ready to go up on stage, let's say the head organizer, if you like, where's your number? I was like, oh shit. So I had to run back upstairs in my little briefs, go and get my number and come back downstairs. So that, added a little bit of anxiety to the overall experience, but it wouldn't be anything less without me being fully prepared or on time, as anyone who knows me will tell you. Coach. The results. So I think you know the results. I'm not here dancing and cheering because I wasn't first. I was second. But that is not why I did it. And you know what? When I stood next to these two guys before I got up on stage, I was like, oh shit, like these dudes are fucking in serious shape. This could go anyway. So to finish in the middle, you know what? It is what it is. I'll take that. I was happy. I'll always want more, but that's just the nature of me. And I think that's what makes me, a competitive individual, is the fact I always want to win. And I think, I'll learn more from coming second than maybe if I did first. I don't think I'd probably do another one if I was first. I think I'd kind of, be that guy who wins on or retires on a win. But now I've got that sort of itch. I didn't come first, so I feel like I've got to do another one. But this guy on the left, like, credit to him, not only had he clearly practiced his posing, clearly got himself in really good shape, but his backstory was immense. Way better than mine. He's a PT, 38 years old, through various reasons in his personal life, got really, really out of shape last year. Up to 120 kilos, I think. Maybe 118 kilos. I've seen pictures. The guy was a fat dude. He'll be the first to admit it. And for him to basically book this show and have this as his, shall we say, closure of his former self. Fair play. Fair play. Loved it. Really nice guy. And we're actually hoping to get together for a training session in a couple of weeks' time. So that'd be cool. Hopefully make some cool content as well, because he's not from far away from me. Maybe this guy on the right in Bahrain, a little bit far for me. I might give him a heads up when I'm on my way to Asia in just over a month's time. I need to get that booked. Anyway, I digress. Awesome. And then post-show, as I said, it wasn't about the food. It wasn't about the donuts, the McDonald's, the pizzas for me. It was about getting round to my sisters, cracking off a bottle of nice Belgian strong beer, sitting down watching the football and relaxing. Boom. But I couldn't relax fully because not only that, the following Sunday, because of me being me, just wanted to, I didn't want to finish competing for the year, so I attended a CrossFit competition, which was actually, as of this video, yesterday. And to give you an insight, we came third out of 23 teams with a team that we'd never trained together before. So I'll be making a video about that for sure. But yeah, this prep has all been about, or this week was all just being about getting ready for that comp. Recarbing up, training, getting back on track. Not that it ever left track, but to a point where, I'm prepping more on the CrossFit side of things. And I suppose post-show, the other thing was the staining my bed with lots of fake tan. Great. So this was obviously the result here. You can see the guy in the middle winning, me on the left getting second, and the guy on the right getting third. But what did I learn about myself? I learned that I can, even in the most uncomfortable situations, find a way to feel comfortable. I think that's not something I've actually learned about myself before. I found it hard. Usually it'll just be about, I'll just get through it, get my head down, get through it. But I found a way to really enjoy the whole experience and not really feel anxiety in a negative way, which was great. I also learned that I'm a fucking idiot sometimes that needs to listen to advice more than he'd care for. And that comes down to, like I say, about the training and not doing too much too close to the show. But hey ho, again, it's what I've learned about myself. And you know, maybe the other thing is that I've not ever had the chance to look back on how much work I've put into my physique, my fitness, my health. Of course, we're so short-sighted. Like, I was only looking at this show as, oh, I had 6 weeks prep. It was fairly easy. You know, I was already in pretty lean shape. Yes, okay, I probably could have got, you know, better results in my legs and probably shed another 1.5 to 2 kilos. What I was forgetting was the 14 to 15 years of graft I'd put in before, of training. Fucking tons. Eating well. And when I sat back and actually reflected on that, I actually spoke to my brother-in-law, my sister about it. It's like, oh, wow, actually, yeah, I've never thought of it like that. They were the ones that sort of opened my eyes to it. So that was really, really cool. The science, as I said, the main science came from the nutrition side of things. So it was mainly around the carb depleting and carb loading, which I really, really enjoyed. I'm going to utilize that more so in, you know, my own comp prep for CrossFit, which is what I did yesterday. I was too scared, I think, to, again, just relating to my old relationships and habits with food. I was just a little bit scared to do that. Now I've felt the benefits in 2 sports, or I say, you know, bodybuilding is more of an art, but 2 events, CrossFit and bodybuilding. Why the fuck am I not doing it? You know, use the science. The science is smarter than me. So that's what I would you know, credit in terms of what I've learned in terms of the science. Applicable strategies. So this is pretty easy. It's basically what I use to fight off cravings, how I manage the diet without feeling like I was on a diet. So it's little things, little hacks like swapping out, you know, higher caloric ingredients or items for lower. And some examples would be swapping dairy out for non-dairy alternatives, leaner proteins in for fattier proteins. Like I said about the carby and less carby fruit and vegetables. So there was lots of little things that I did during this phase because the training was, you know, that's never going to be a challenge, but the diet's always going to be the struggle for most people. And the little hacks that I use is just what I'm going to, you know, then, you know, reapply to my clients to see if they experience the same as what I did and make them feel like they actually aren't cutting down the food. We're just swapping things out. How the extremes affected me. So again, this relates to just being at one, in touch with my clients. So the lack of energy, the dizzy spells, the mood fluctuations. Now I know how sometimes my clients might feel when they are in the sort of drags of their cut. You know, they've maybe had a typically bad day and they're, you know, really, really low on calories because they've not been able to get meals in. I can empathize a little bit more, shall we say. So definitely on that field. But also the training side of things, like knowing that I didn't really lose strength, but muscular endurance was a factor. Now I can communicate that with my clients that, okay, you probably will experience some strength loss gains. You probably will experience some energy loss in the gym. It's just normal. Because people who haven't experienced it before might see that as a worry and might see that as a reason to stop their cut. And finally, of course, how could I improve? I think I've told you multiple times, give myself a little bit longer on the prep so I can shed a few more kilos and pose more. Why I'm pissed off with myself, I think it's because I know deep down I could have put a little bit more focus on this. I don't think working hard enough it's not the right phrase, because I certainly worked hard. I was training every day. I was training right up, and I was doing CrossFit up until the day before the show. There's no doubt I was, you know, putting effort in. Maybe it's being smarter with that effort is something I could improve. Maybe it's taking instruction on board. If I'm paying someone to coach me, let them coach me and stop being thinking I know more in fields that I'm not well versed in. So yeah, it's quite interesting to just know that about myself, that okay, there's definitely areas I can improve, and maybe it goes against the norm, but that's me, and that's me understanding me. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to sort of babble on about shit now. I'm staring at 3 blokes with small fucking cock and ball teasers on, one of them being myself. So this is quite uncomfortable. ending, shall we say. I only joke. Like, you can all go away and wank to these pictures on your own. But I am signing off. I hope you all got a little bit from not just this slideshow, but also my experience in the bodybuilding realms. And hopefully you'll get more value from it in years to come, in months to come, in weeks to come, with everything that I share, with any more that I do. And like I say, if you are someone who is thinking about getting into bodybuilding, thinking about signing up for your first show, ask away. I'm more than happy to share my experience, and maybe that will help, open your eyes a little bit more to what you're letting yourself in for. Peace. Let's go.